life as God intends.
Amen.
And, you know, so that's a very good reminder and a connection. Well, one of the things of what we try to do here, you may wonder what we're trying to do as you go through these, as we drag you through these seemingly like sometimes unrelated contexts, but we're trying to increase the capacity that you have to build collaborative initiatives that can really move the needle on big societal issues. That's why we call this an accelerator, a community engagement accelerator, community involvement accelerator, and impact. And we're interested in results. And we send you away. Our hope is that you leave here today with some very outcome-directed, some things you want to see happen, not just talked about, not just imagined. And so we spent most of yesterday, one way or the other, dealing with collaboration skills. Like the Good Samaritan had compassion, but he also had competency and he also had capacity. And so that's what you've got compassion, but how do we build competence and capacity? And so yesterday, all about various aspects of collaboration from, and we'll continue to do that today. But let's be real, there's some things that get in the way of collaboration. Of course, we saw some of that in our little suspension bridge exercise. There were those of you who were a little shifty. I don't want to talk about which team that was, but 29 and 3. But I'm just saying, y'all probably built a bed bridge last night as you thought about it. But I want to take a look today as we begin this day in the reality of what are we up against, and sometimes to see our dreams even before we get to our final plans. And the truth is, the folks or the insight is the folks that Stanford, whose language we use in they call it collective impact, we call it community impact. But when I shared with you last time, the collaborative path of mutual agenda, shared scorecard, or shared metrics, and all those creating urgency. I mean, they've done a really good job of teasing out the dynamics of folks that make an impact. This last year, they published something, and you don't have to take notes on what I'm about to show you. It's a PowerPoint that you'll actually have. We're going to give it to you, so just kind of sit back and get the conceptual piece about what, and they do a really good job, so I want to use their framework. They call it the collaborative triangle, and there are 4 aspects of it. ED, let's go ahead to the next. Yeah, so you can see that there's a coalition at the center, and that's what we're trying to help you with. By the way, I wonder how long will it take to burn a hole in that? or settle. I'll try not to burn out your retinas when I turn around. But you might want to shield your ear. But this is what you're right here in terms of putting together the folks that can make something happen. But there are 3 aspects of this. First of all, you got to agree on what you're trying to get done, enough to get it accomplished. Then there's the capacity to get it delivered, and then you have the support and the legitimacy in the community to say, yeah, those are the folks that we want to join in working with that. And so every barrier, and I think that, and I told you we'll give you an article and it'll have this diagram in it, but every one of these positive things, if you just flip it around, becomes an actual barrier to the collaboration, and you have to address it. So EB, hit that next button for us. And so, for instance, on public value, remember that was down on the right-hand side of the triangle. If you don't agree on what if you got disagreement on what the problem is or the outcomes, then you have a problem with the support that you're going to need to get something done. And hit the next slide. and over on legitimacy and support, which were over here in that triangle in the base. If you're struggling to get the parties, if people won't sign up, they won't cut you a check, they won't give you the people, they won't allow you access to their networks. I was dealing with some Salvation Army officers last week about another matter, but the truth is those folks on your board that have been recruited and they're platinum folks in your community, a lot of times we don't ask them for access to their networks. We just want their name, but every one of those folks has an enormous influence. You begin to work those networks, particularly when you're trying to get something done on a youth, something for young people or something about housing. They bring enormous work to it. And then at the top, if you remember, or actually operationals down here, folks, it doesn't matter. But on those operational capacities, if there are disagreements on how to accomplish it, you've seen all these. Now, every one of these challenges, disagreements or struggles or problems, I want to ask you to think about, are we facing that as a group? And how big a challenge is it? Because some of these are bigger challenges than others. And then, Evie, let's go to the next one. It has, one more click there. Will put us right back in the middle at the coalition level. There's 6 barriers that you've got to pay attention to. Yeah, there you go. Not having the right people. Last time we even talked about collaborative IQ involving trust and communication as the lifeblood. Trust is your currency. And but even inadequate structure, so people don't know what's expected of me, who do I go to get this done. All of these are barriers that you have to overcome. And as I've said, for some of you, depending on your context, these barriers are more like speed bumps. They're just little bitty things. You got it pretty well nailed. But there may be 1, 2, or 3 of these barriers that are big old honking problems for you that you've got to address, because no collaboration can be successful if you don't deal with the barriers that stand in the way. It just kind of makes sense. Is that the last slide, Evie? Do we have? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Now, what we've got for you to do to process this, because I know this is just dumping it on you, but we've got those 15 barriers lined out for you on a handout. And you're going to get 2 handouts. One is an individual piece that just says barriers, ranking barriers. The other says team tally. I want you to, first of all, individually, just go through. We don't have time to look it off, but note for you, in your context, say, I think these 3 barriers are the 3 biggest ones we face. Do that individually first. And then, I'll just give you a couple minutes to do that. And then when all of you are through individually ranking, start sharing those rankings and see if you have a consensus in your group about, and you may not. You may find that gosh, I only thought we had 3 big ones. There seems to be consensus. There are 7 of these that we need to work on by the time everyone gets to report on or whatever. And those are at the tables.
Yep.
And Angela was here like at 5 o'clock this morning distributing those so that you can have them in time. You're going to have plenty of time for this because this requires plenty of explanation. We'll monitor your progress, and when we think you're pretty well done, then we'll hear a report out from your group. Okay, does that make sense? It doesn't have to make sense till you actually do it. So it is in the doing that the sense comes. Well, I know, just do it. I mean, that was kind of directed, wasn't it? All right. I'm a little tired of having this pushback. Biggest barrier to communication right now is me, probably. All right, so let's head to our tables and start to work on this and see where your challenges really are as we move forward out of here.